Alright guys, once you've set the front of the gun and the mini reg to 200 psi, it's time to move to the back of the gun so you can set the LPR. Alright, to get to the LPR, you got to remove the back plate, which is one screw right in the very middle, in between the little A badge and the rotor breech knob. It's a 2mm screw. Remove it, set it aside, don't lose it because it's small, and you're going to just slide the back plate right off. Once you're in there, you're going to see the rotor breech and ram assembly, and you're going to see a plug, which is identical to the front plugs on older Angels. Take your 4mm screw or wrench and remove the plug. Just be careful of these threads because they're really fine. You don't want to strip them out or you're screwed. And set it aside. Once you have that off, you can see your LPR assembly, and you're going to get your first initial reading without doing anything other than that. Take the LPR gauge, screw it in to the point where you can get a good reading. Turn your gun on. And air it up. This is going to be your initial reading and is going to tell you whether you need to add shims or remove them. Every gun is different, and every gun is going to require a different amount of shims, and they all come with different amounts of shims from the factory. Alright, after looking at my reading, you can see that I am at 50 psi exactly, which means I need to add shims in order for it to be ideal. If your LPR pressure is too low, when you're shooting real quick, you will experience some shoot down, but if it's too high, you won't get desired results either. So make sure you degas the gun fully, including turning your eyes off and getting that one last shot out. Shut your gun back off. And remove the valve. Okay. In order to remove your LPR, you need to take your LPR test tool. You can use either a screw that's threaded to the correct threads or the one that came with the gun. Thread it in there and just pull the LPR out. Here you're going to see couple different things. You have these perfectly flat round shims, which are the shims you need to add or remove. You're also going to have these frisbee shaped shims, which are not supposed to be touched. Alright, each shim is going to give you, I don't know, maybe 2.5, 3 psi maybe. So since I need to bump it up a little bit, I have to add a shim. Take a separate shim, just put it with the rest of them, add it back to the shim stack, and I'm ready to push it back into the gun. Make sure you push it all the way in or you'll get a massive leak. Make sure it's seated firm. Undo your LPR tool and thread your gauge back on. And remember, the target pressures that we're going for are 200 psi in the mini reg and 55 psi on the LPR. 200 psi in the regulator is just a starting point. As soon as you touch your velocity, it's going to change, and with the change in the mini reg is going to come a change in the LPR. I, for instance, don't have any more shims to add, so I have a feeling right now my LPR is going to be a little bit low. However, it's, every gun is going to be different, and these are just starting pressures. until you get on a chronograph, you're not going to have your gun tuned 100%. These are just the the starting points of your tuning, and if you need to adjust from there, you just do the same steps in this video, whether it's adding or removing shims in the LPR or adjusting pressures on the mini reg. But once again, in order to do this fully and properly, you're going to need to be at the field in front of a chronograph. Alright, so once the gauge is back on, let's turn on the gun. And air it up. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but the camera's kind of poor. My pressure did go up a little tiny bit. I'm now about 52.5 psi, which is halfway to the target pressure of 55. I'm going to go ahead and say for testing purposes this is close enough, and we will go from there. The gun is very fast and very smooth at this point, and is staying consistent on both pressures. So once you have these pressures set, you're going to have to degas the gun. So make sure you let off all existing pressure in the gun, and unscrew your tank so you can undo these gauges. Make sure you shut your gun off again. And you're now ready to replace all of the parts. So take your end plug, stick it back on. Make sure you don't strip out the threads, so be kind of careful with that. If you feel any resistance when you're screwing this plug in, stop immediately. Once the plug's back on, take your back plate, slide it back on, and drop in that little screw. Tighten it down. And we are all done messing with the insides of the gun. From here, all we need to do is mess with the dwell. Chances are you already have it set at 6.5, but for those who don't know how to do it, I'm going to show you. Hopefully it's not too blurry, so I'm going to walk you through it as well. Turn on your gun, hold the wheel up so you can get to this screen. Go to parameters. It should start off with modes. Right underneath that is valve dwell. Enter that in, and you'll have a bunch of different settings. 6.5 is the setting that you want to start off with. This will give you an adjusting point. From here you can raise and lower the dwell as you see fit. As you break in the kit, you'll be able to lower your dwell to 6 and 5.5, potentially lower depending on your setup. After that's all set, go to back, set your gun to live, and you are ready to play. Alright guys, I hope these videos helped. If you